Good morning, everybody. How we all doing? Welcome to the Habits and Humor podcast and live show. I'm Susie B, and I'm your host. Today's episode is called Your Two Superpowers. I have been working on a system of helping people to create what they want in their lives. The system came from starting out as a personal trainer. I was helping my clients to simplify the pathway to long-term health. A lot of people come to me and they say, hey, I want to lose some weight, or I want to fix this injury, or I want to just feel better and look better. Give me some crash diet kind of advice that I can start and make some crazy fast progress. And I tell them, you can either have crazy fast progress, or you can flip that idea on its head and start small. People want to start with something big and crazy and go all in right at the beginning. And what happens is they burn themselves out. They wear themselves out. They overwhelm themselves with too much at once. And that leads to frustration, to disappointment, to giving up, to quitting, all of those things that frustrate the heck out of us, because what we want is a good idea. We all want the thing. Maybe we want to improve our mental health. Maybe we're trying to lose some weight. Maybe we're trying to improve our lives with our families. All of these are good ideas and they should absolutely happen. But sometimes we just can't make those things happen because we try a method of going about those things that is too difficult to stick to. It's too complicated. It's too overwhelming. Maybe it's a little bit crazy. And so oftentimes what happens is we give up before we get to the point where we're actually making progress, making the difference that's going to change our lives. I can't stand that part of the process. I experience this all the time in my own life, and I experience this all the time with my clients. And so what I have to go back to is called 1, 2, 3 habits. This is my philosophy on the way I live my life, the way I help my clients live their lives with their goals, and the way that I help my friends and family as well, and my own kids. We all do this system because it is simple, it is manageable, and it totally makes for long-term change. We turn short-term effort into long-term results with habits. If you know what a habit is, it is something that you work on for a little while, and then you don't have to think about it anymore, but it continues to serve you. It continues to make an impact on your life. This 1, 2, 3 habit system is what I consider to be the most efficient and effective way to form habits. There are many books about this. There are many talks about this. There are many different avenues that people are talking about habits, but there's not a lot of actual practical steps to help you to turn these habits into reality. You can learn about habits all day long, but until you actually make them happen in your life, they don't really do anything for you. And that's what we talked about last week, is how to simplify the process down to one thing at a time. That's the first piece of the 1, 2, 3 habits system. One thing at a time. Not one thing at all, but one focus first. If you have 100,000 brilliant ideas and beautiful ambitions, great. Which one of them would bring you the most happiness if you were to work on it right now? Which one would make the biggest difference in your life if you didn't put it off anymore and you actually started working on that thing today? That's your one focus, the first one that you're going to focus on. Those other ones, those will still happen. And I'm going to teach you how quickly we can get to those other ones today with step number 2, part 2. You were born with 2 superpowers. This is a fact. It's absolute truth. And it's an incredible truth that we all really should embrace. If you've ever wondered about your self-worth or what you have to offer to this incredible world, realize this: you have 2 superpowers that are completely limitless. These are not things that you can only use in certain situations or certain times of year or in certain parts of your life. These 2 superpowers unlock the ability to improve every single aspect of your life and the lives of those around you. I'm not kidding you. These are superpowers. You are more powerful than you could possibly comprehend. But today, I hope to enlighten you just slightly so that you can start to see and feel how amazing life can be, And the best part is you have everything you need to succeed right now. You don't have to go out and buy some product. You don't have to learn some grandiose experience in order to be able to make this happen for you. You already have it all. You have everything you need to succeed because you were born with it. You were built for this process of greatness, of achievement, of succeeding, of progressing, of continually becoming a little bit better. All you need is how to use it, how to actually make these two superpowers become one in your life. And 1, 2, 3 habits is, in my opinion, the simplest, most efficient way to do that thing. To use these two superpowers to change every part of your life. It's simpler than you think. It takes less time than you would probably guess. And you're already ready. You don't have to wait for a certain time. You don't have to wait until you understand some concept. I'm going to teach you today how you can start right now. So just if you are new to the show, this is the Habits and Humor podcast. I'm Susie B. I'm a personal trainer and a habits coach. And I discovered a remarkably simple system to help people to go from wanting something to actually making that thing happen, to go from wanting to be a kind of person to actually being that person. Instead of wanting to be healthy, actually being healthy. Instead of wanting to be successful, actually being successful. And I'm not going to teach you how to do it in 6 months. I'm not going to teach you how to do it in a year. I'm going to teach you how to do it now, right here, right now, right here today, because you already have what you need. I just spoke about this. So this process that I discovered is called 1, 2, 3 habits. And what it is it takes you from an idea to a reality in 3 easy steps that you can do every single day. It is basically a daily progress system that ensures that you do the things necessary to make what you want become what you have, become who you are and the way that you live your life. And it's in 3 simple steps. So last week we talked about the first step, which was simplifying the process and choosing one to work on first. Today, we're going to talk about the second part of the 1, 2, 3 habits system. Part 2 is your superpowers. You have 2 superpowers, your conscious and your subconscious mind. These are your superpowers. Your conscious mind is amazing. It is the reason you are able to do anything. It is where you form your opinions. It's where you do your tasks. It's where your to-do list lives. It's where all of the things that you're consciously aware of, all the things that you do on purpose daily, that's what is what is held in your conscious mind. Your conscious mind takes care of all of those things. Your subconscious then is your other half, the other piece of your mind. And this part is amazing. A lot of people are confused about the subconscious mind, and they think that it is one of those things that you don't have access to, or that it just sort of happens on its own. I'm going to debunk that myth today. I want you to know that you have complete access to totally take charge of what is in your subconscious mind and what that part of your life does. So the subconscious then is all of the things that happen that you don't have to think about. Blinking, breathing, all of your habitual behaviors. If you wake up and immediately want to take a shower, the way that you shower and you do the same tasks in the same order every time, those decisions are made in your subconscious mind because they're no longer decisions. These are habits that you formed at some point in your life, and now they're just there. They just happen. So I'm going to teach you how to tap into that subconscious mind with your conscious mind. So you're going to use your conscious to fill up your subconscious with exactly what you need to happen in a day or in a week or in a month. And what's going to happen is it's going to save you time. It's going to save you effort. It's going to save you energy because you don't have to think about all the things at once, but many, many things can still be happening on autopilot. I'm going to teach you how to automate some of those tasks that you know need to happen on a daily basis, but you don't have the time to make them happen every single day. Here's how. The 1, 2, 3 habit system. But before we go into exactly how to harness those 2 powers together in true habits and humor fashion, I have to tell you an embarrassing story. Again, if you're new to the show, I find that sometimes personal development and progress talks get a little heavy. They get a little hard. So I try to lighten the mood and I try to make it relatable and simple and enjoyable. And the way that I do that is by teaching you how to remember the part of the process with an embarrassing moment or a funny story. I think humor is the key to enjoying your life. And so we try to use it on this show to teach you that you can make serious progress without taking life too seriously. So the moment you've been waiting for, this week's embarrassing moment, this week's embarrassing story, is about your two superpowers. So for the past few minutes, I've been talking about how to combine these two superpowers together in order to succeed. Here's an example of what happens when your two superpowers separate, when you don't use them together. So my husband and I we went to our temple. Our church has a temple, and we do ceremonies in there to make promises with our God, and we make promises with each other. And so one day my husband and I went to worship in our temple, and on this particular occasion, we had been up in one of the rooms and been having this peaceful, beautiful experience together. And then we completed what we were doing in that room, and we got up to go to the next room. And as we stood up to move to the next room, I passed out. I went all the way down to the ground, completely unconscious, fell to the ground. And like I said, everyone in the room had finished what they were doing, and they were about to move into the next room. So everyone in the room now is surrounding me as I'm laying unconscious on the floor in this worship space where we're supposed to be feeling peace and humility. And I'm laying on the floor unconscious. So everyone's suddenly in a state of panic. Here's the crazy thing. When I woke up, or when I opened my eyes, I was surrounded by, the first thing I saw was this beautiful, bright chandelier hanging from the ceiling. And it was incredibly a beautiful, bright, powerful light. So I wake up, I open my eyes, and I just see this bright light. And then I see that I'm surrounded by people in white. You guys, I thought I had died. I seriously thought, oh, I'm dead. I made it to heaven. I thought I'd made it to heaven. And so I'm laying there, and I'm starting to sit up, and like, whoa, I'm dead and I'm in heaven. I seriously felt like I was in the next life. And I'm looking around, and all of a sudden the face of the person who's helping me up comes into focus. And it's my husband. And I'm like, oh, you made it too. And I'm thrilled for a moment that we're both there together in heaven, and we're so peaceful. And then it dawns on me, we have 4 kids. If you and I are both dead, we just left our kids orphaned. So now I'm panicking that we've orphaned our children and that I don't know what to do. So I'm trying to formulate words to talk to him, and I cannot speak. I don't know. I was in this state of, it was just the most confused I've ever been in my whole life, basically. So I sit up, and I'm looking around, and I'm kind of feeling that bit of panic, very confused. I'm wondering if I'm dead or not, or what's going on. And so my husband sits me up, and he sits me on a chair, and he starts telling me, like, are you okay? And I'm like, trying to be, well, yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. Like, we made it. I'm good. We're good. And then he's like, trying to explain to me, like, oh, you just passed out. Are you okay? Did you hit your head or anything like that? And I'm like, wait a minute. What are you talking about? I had no recollection of being there, because I had no idea where I was, how I had gotten there, how he had gotten there, what we were doing there. Had no idea. It was the most confused I've ever been in my entire life. So I'm sitting in this room, and there's all these people. Somebody brings me a glass of water. Other people are like, do you need air? Do you need me to fan you? Like, all of this very, very kind people trying to help me. And I am just so confused, like no idea what's going on. And so then he explains to me that I am in fact not dead and that I've been unconscious for about 3 seconds. So that was kind of the icing on the cake, was that my kids are fine and they're down the road at the babysitter. So I had been out for 3 seconds. So 3 seconds is all that it took to completely separate my conscious and subconscious mind. My subconscious totally took over and was like, hey, this was a dream of yours. You wanted to be in heaven. Now you are, like, welcome. And my conscious mind is like, wait a minute. What are we doing? How did we get here? What just happened? And so these two parts of my head are totally separate and totally confused. And so I'm sitting there, and people are trying to explain to me what's going on. And I just cannot grasp it. Like, my husband's like, we drove here in a car and we came from home. The kids are just down the road. As soon as you're ready, we'll go change clothes and we'll go back home to the kids. And I'm just like, where are we? And he's like, we're in Logan and we're at the temple. And, like, and I was just so confused, could not fathom the situation. Probably took me 5 to 10 minutes before I finally came back into my head, and like those two pieces of my mind came back together of like, oh yes, okay, right, we live here, this is a place that we go sometimes together. It was, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, this disconnect was just the weirdest thing. It was the most confused I've ever been in my whole life. I've talked to other people who have passed out and had similar experiences like this, so this is not unique to me. If you are unconscious for even just a few seconds, your brain somehow separates. So I went into research to figure out why this happens, because I'm a nerd and that's what I do. Anytime anything happens, I'm like, research. So I studied this a little bit, and it really is a disconnect between your conscious and subconscious mind. When you pass out it wasn't intentional, your subconscious sort of takes over and your conscious gets a little bit lost. And those two things take a minute before they get back together. So if you are, if I want to compare this to you guys and your situation right here. Maybe you're not unconscious in a place of worship, but maybe you are very confused about a certain part of your life. Maybe you get somewhere and you're like, how did I even get here? And the results just kind of hit you all of a sudden one day. Or maybe you are baffled by the fact that you want something so badly in your life, but it keeps eluding you. You're very confused as to why you can't make it happen. Or maybe it's just something that you are progressing with, and then all of a sudden after about a month, it just gets super hard and you can't do it anymore. If you ever wonder why, this is why. It's because you have a disconnect between your two superpowers. Your two superpowers have to be in constant communication for you to succeed. And if there's a time that they are not, that is what holds you back. If you are only using your conscious or subconscious to work on a piece of progress in your life, that is why it gets confusing. That is why it doesn't work long term. In order to make your changes happen and actually continue into the future, long-term lifestyle change, you have to use both parts of your mind. There's a lot of studies and a lot of things going on out there that target either the conscious mind with really intense short-term programming, or the subconscious mind with things like hypnosis and stuff like that. The mark they're missing is that you need both to succeed. And if you know how to make these two things work together and how to harness both of them so that they both are working for you as you're working for a goal, that is where the magic happens. This piece of the puzzle is called subconscious succession. When your conscious and subconscious come together, that is where long-term change happens. So let me explain the process. You're going to work on that one pillar focus, whatever that one pillar is. You're going to work on that for the first month with your conscious mind working really, really hard. This is going to be daily tasks that you're doing every single day to make this thing a reality. It's going to take your effort. It's going to take your thought. It's going to bring up some awareness that maybe wasn't there before. You're all of a sudden going to be very conscious of the decisions you're making, the way that you're spending your time, and how these things are affecting you in the short term. So you work on this part of the process for about a month. And then as you work on it for a second month, month number 2, also why it's part number 2 in this process, 2 superpowers, 2 months, that second month is where those 2 powers come together. So your conscious is what takes your effort, what takes your time, what takes your energy. And then after the research shows between 40 and 60 days, your subconscious mind will realize the importance of what you're working on and will start to take over the process that your conscious has been doing. So your decision making, you're forming opinions, you're making these things happen, and it takes your time, it takes your effort for about a month, about 40 days. And then between 40 and 60 days, your subconscious starts to take over. And all of a sudden, these things no longer require as much effort, as much time, as much thought, as much energy. They just start to become who you are. They start to become part of the way that you live your life, whether you're thinking about it or not. That is what is called subconscious succession. And that is the key to long-term change. Most people don't get to that subconscious succession piece because right before it is really, really difficult. After about 30 days of working on the same thing, your conscious mind starts to get bored. And this is the part where I call this the slump. James Clear calls it the period or the plateau of latent potential. What happens is your conscious mind starts to get bored of what you're working on. Let's use a specific example. Let's say you're working on your mental health. And every single day you read, you journal, and you talk to your spouse about what's going on. You have an accountability partner to make sure that you are actually making progress. So you've got the 3 tasks going on every single day. For about a month, you're putting in your solid effort and it feels like it's happening for you. And then all of a sudden, you just don't want to do it anymore. You guys have been here before. I know you have. I've been there a million times. You've been making progress and feeling motivated. And then all of a sudden, one day you just wake up and you're like, what is the point? Why am I still doing this thing? It's so tiring. It's so exhausting. And it doesn't feel like it's making any difference. This is the calm before the storm. This slump, this plateau of latent potential. This is the beautiful part of this process, because that means that your subconscious is forming those new brain pathways. It's actually physiologically making a change in your brain that is promoting long-term change. So those pathways have to be formed. And then all of a sudden your subconscious will be like, hey, conscious, I got this from now on. You can take a break. If you can push through the slump, if you can push through that latent potential plateau, you will absolutely be able to make lasting change, but you have to get there. And as you do this 1, 2, 3 habits system a couple of times, you will be able to understand yourself really, really well and how your brain particularly works on this stuff. So if you are right in this thing and you are feeling how this changes, I've done this process many, many times in my life, but over about 2 or 3 times, I discovered how my brain works. For me, it's about 55 days. My brain is a little bit slower to make those changes. So I have to go almost a solid 2 months before I start to feel that change, that natural subconscious capacity where these things become habits. And I don't have to think about them anymore. After about 55 days of working on something daily and doing it as many times as I can, it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to have exactly 55 days in a row where I fail, just as many times as I can over that 55-day period. Whatever progress I've made up to that point, my subconscious will solidify that and decide, okay, this needs to continue to happen on autopilot. This is where the automation piece of your brain happens, and it's absolutely incredible. You have 2 superpowers, and when you learn how to use them together, your life becomes so much richer, so much more impactful, because you don't have to do everything at once. Oftentimes we will sit down and we'll write a big list of all the things we need to accomplish. And we'll tear into it for 2 or 3 days, and then we'll get exhausted because it takes so much effort, so much energy. You can't do that many things at a time. However, if you can break it up into 2-month increments, 2 months at a time, work on a couple of these pieces, that is how we make lasting change in many areas of our life, all at the same time. So consciously, you're working on one pillar at a time, but subconsciously, you're working on all the ones that you've already done. So for me, I've done this process probably 20 times in my life. And over that 20 times, I've formed some habits every single step of the way. And so every single one of those habits is still in some form. It doesn't make you perfect. All of a sudden, these things just robotically happen all the time. But most of the time, a lot of these habits are still happening in my life, and I don't have to think about them. It's so incredible what your mind can do for you if you set it up to do those things. So I hope that you have been to these points, these different points in the process that I'm talking about. First, the confusion of why you can't make it happen. If you want something bad enough, you should be able to make it happen, right? Your brain is fighting you. Once you understand how your brain works, you can understand how to break down those barriers before you even hit them and overcome those and continue into the next step. If you've hit the slump before, maybe you've been on a really awesome health plan before. Maybe you were killing it with the exercise and you were eating really clean and doing all the things right for about 30 days. Then you got tired of it. And instead of pushing through the slump and getting to that subconscious succession where it becomes habitual, maybe you had to give up. Maybe you didn't understand where you were in the process, so you quit there. You quit before the beautiful part that serves you for life, the massive shift that changes so that these changes become long-term. I encourage you to try again. Know this, whatever progress you've made before will help you improve now. It's like riding a bike. The first time you ride a bike, you're terrible at it because you have no idea what you're doing. The second time you ride your bike, you're a little bit better at it because of what you did before. You're still not perfect, but every time you do it, you get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And it becomes a little bit easier because now you're more prepared. As you get on the bike the second time, you understand the balance factor. You understand how to pedal and balance at the same time. You understand where the brakes are and all of those different parts of the piece or parts of the puzzle because you know what's coming next. Every time you do this 1, 2, 3 habits system, you do that for yourself. Every time you have tried to make whatever that dream is in your life happen, you have made progress. Forgive yourself for giving up any other time and know this, whatever you did before was worth it because now you are better prepared to do it again. Especially with health, a lot of people think that once I've done it once, now my body will fight me and it will actually be harder this time around. That might be true of your body, but it is not true of your mind. And if you can connect your body and mind together, you can overcome those barriers of any past experience. You can absolutely change whatever it is in your life that needs changing. Last week, we talked about that 1 pillar focus. A lot of you probably experienced that word jumping up off the page at you. Okay, that's the one I need right now. This is the one that's really calling to me. Chase that thing down. Don't let it escape from you. Don't let it get away. Don't sit in that state of confusion, wondering, how did I get here? And what am I supposed to do to move forward? Bring your conscious and subconscious together. 2 superpowers over 2 months of time. Imagine yourself in 6 months. You could have done this process 3 times in 6 months. You can do this process 3 times over 6 months. If you form some change in 3 different areas of your life, in 6 months from now, where will you be? 6 months from now, if you've done this 1, 2, 3 habit system 3 times, you can change 3 aspects of your life in just 6 months' time. This does not take a huge commitment. I know a lot of people set a goal at the beginning of the year and they're going to work on it for an entire year. Oftentimes they forget or they fall off the wagon or they get distracted along the way. It's because your brain is not meant to work on something for an entire year. I've tested this. I've done this system many, many times in many different timelines. And 60 days is always the best for making change, keeping it, and giving you that conscious space back so that you can continue onto the next thing, onto the next thing, onto the next thing, or even on the same thing, but on a deeper level. A lot of times I'll go through this with my personal training clients 2 or 3 times in a row, back to back. The first time is very foundational. We work on water, we work on daily movement, things like that. The second time, it's more about specifics. We get really into the way that they lift and the way that they work their macros and those kind of things. And then the third time, they get really, really into their very specific personal goals. And over a 6-month period of time, they've created amazing foundational habits, incredible, powerful lifting routines, and then really, really personalized, specifics like diet and nutrition and all of those kind of things. And then they automate all of those things over time, all of those tasks, all of those decisions that you have to make on a daily basis. Those have all become automated 2 months at a time. You have 2 superpowers, work them together 2 months at a time and watch how this incredibly simple process will change your life. So the final question is, how do we combine these 2 superpowers together? I know we've been talking about it. We're supposed to work on it for 2 months. We're going to make these 2 things into one. How do we do it? Step 3, 3 simple daily habits. 3 habits. So the 1, 2, 3 habit system, 1 pillar focus, 2 superpowers, 3 habits. Tune in next week and I will show you exactly how to form 3 habits that will make your 1 pillar focus absolutely come into reality today by harnessing your 2 superpowers. 1, 2, 3 habits. It's simple, it's possible, and it's fun. I absolutely love this process. I absolutely love doing this in my life and helping other people do it in their lives. My kids do it all the time. My family does it all the time. My friends, my clients. We love this process because it is simple. It gives you confidence in yourself so that you know you can do it. whatever it is, whatever the goal is in your life that you know you need to make happen. Maybe you've tried and failed. That's okay. We're going to let that go. We're going to realize it's okay because it's actually good, because now we're better prepared to do it again. Now that we have a proven system of how to make this thing happen, we're going to make it happen. So go back and watch last week's if you haven't seen it yet. Set your one pillar. Now that you know about your two superpowers over 2 months, next week, we're going to talk about your 3 simple habits that we're going to make those things happen. I love this process, and I just want to thank you for being here. I am in awe at all of the amazing people in this world, all of you who have incredible dreams that you're chasing, and you see a need and you fill it. Maybe that's in your own life, or maybe that's in the lives of the people around you, or your community, or the world at large. It's incredibly inspiring to see you turn one of your brilliant ideas into reality that actually exists in the world. So I thank you. I thank you for chasing those dreams, and I thank you for being here and prioritizing yourself, prioritizing your time, and realizing that these are dreams worth chasing. This is time worth spending. And I hope that you can see that and feel that in your life. And I hope that the 1, 2, 3 habits process makes it incredibly simple, incredibly possible, and helps you to start today to both find happiness in the life that you have, while at the same time, you're subconsciously building the life of your dreams with your habits. 1, 2, 3 at a time. See you next week when we finish off the 3rd part of this process, when we talk about the 3 habits and we bring in 1, 2, 3 all together. I'm really, really excited to feel and to see the progress that you guys make as we make it simple, as we make it possible. 1, 2, 3 habits has completely changed my life, and I hope to see it change yours as well. Thanks for being here, you guys, and I hope you have a fantastic week. We will see you next week when we talk about part 3.